Hello everyone. After several requests for a more serious and more in-depth look at the last gameplay reveal for Bluepoint's Demon's Souls remake, followed by an additional gameplay trailer that was released today, I decided to take a dive into what will probably be my last look at this project. As you can probably guess if you've seen my other videos on this subject, I'm not exactly feeling excited for this remake. For what will remain my most thorough analysis of the art style and atmosphere, please check out my Demon's Souls remake art critique video that I released back in June. Some of my thoughts in this video will be follow-up points made in that video, so it may be worth watching it before this one. And this should go without saying, but social media continues to prove otherwise, so let me say it clearly. No one is saying that the remake is not a technologically impressive game. Clearly, on a technological level, it is impressive. Models and environments have far more mesh complexity, textures are much higher resolution, and the shader effects are equally next generation. This video will be essentially my final thoughts on the subject that hopefully won't be too redundant. We can start on a positive note. Both the designs of the Flamelurker and the Tower Knight Arena have been modified based on community feedback.
So, yes, Bluepoint did change the Tower Knight and Flamelurker scene shown in the gameplay demo. Fans noted that the Tower Knight battle felt a bit more bright and heroic than in the original, while the Flamelurker looked to have had its face changed entirely. After seeing the response, the developers agreed that the Flamelurker at least was a step too far and tweaked it to be closer to the original. So, they are listening to your criticisms, just remember to keep it constructive.
Flamelurker's unique face has been restored, which is definitely an improvement. Similarly, the color grading and atmosphere of the Tower Knight Arena is closer to the original's moody ambiance. The deeper issues regarding the overly ornate architecture remain, however. Unfortunately, it's likely that anything that hasn't already been altered will remain that way, given that we are now only a few weeks from release. This is one of the major issues for me. I won't go into too much detail here as this was the primary focus of my initial video discussing the remake, but it looks like nearly every single environment we've seen so far is absolutely bathed in orange and teal, cranked to the maximum saturation point. I'll try not to spend too much time on this particular point, but this color grading scheme is an extremely overused style that has been done to death by almost all forms of commercial visual media in the last 20 years. Not only does it mean that each location has less of a unique visual identity, it also detracts from the uniqueness of the overall presentation. There are plenty of other games that look like the Demon's Souls remake, but there are few that resemble the original. One odd aesthetic decision is what seems to be an aversion to darkness. Part of the effective visual style of the original is its confident implementation of chiaroscuro, the usage of light and dark. The caverns of Stonefang rise, and the towers of Latria fall into an enveloping darkness. The eyes of demons in dark places are a fair indication of danger, but shrouding their forms in darkness allows that reptilian fear center in your brain to activate and your imagination to work more effectively than any literal depiction of danger could. It makes the areas feel limitless and full of unseen danger. Conversely, look at this tunnel. It's a 50-yard tunnel inside the middle of a mountain, and a scattering of candles throughout. So why then is it lit like this? Same with this spot here. Where is this light coming from? Even if you're trying to suggest that it's a hole that goes all the way through the mountain, why is the light teal? Is this a gameplay concession? Is the developers not wanting to hide their mega resolution texture work and elaborate architecture? Either way, it's a fundamental issue with the presentation. It was confirmed in the Gamespot interview mentioned earlier that there will be indeed filters available in-game, including one that aims to replicate the visual style of the original, but as I've said before, throwing a post-processing filter over the image is not going to alter the way the lighting engine is handled, much less fundamental design elements like character and level designs. Another of the unique parts of the Souls series is a recurring element of questioning whether or not you're really the hero in the story. Situations are deliberately crafted to cause the player to question their actions. The most notorious examples are Maiden Astraea from Demon's Souls, Sif from Dark Souls 1, and Lady Maria from Bloodborne. Characters who stand between your character and their ultimate goal, yet are presented as sympathetic and sometimes even innocent characters. One less discussed example of this would be the miners of Stonefang in Demon's Souls. The miners tirelessly work to provide materials to support King Allant and his Boletarian soldiers. They continue to work even as the colorless fog swept into the land, losing their minds and souls in the process. Now they mindlessly continue to chisel away in the tunnels. These characters are therefore, at the very least, neutral in the grand scheme of things, and worthy of at least some measure of pity and consideration by the time the player character encounters them. This is evidenced by their design and sound effects. They are mindless drones that have been corrupted by a sinister outside element. They are not monsters. Conversely, their depiction in the remake is yet again another apparent oversight of these kinds of details. Demon's Souls is my favorite in the series, and one of my favorite games ever, but I wouldn't argue that certain aspects of the gameplay needed an overhaul. The speed while climbing ladders was way too slow, for example, and I don't think anyone was clamoring to preserve the Armor Spider's moveset, yet here it is, as robotic and basic as ever. This remake has been in development for 3 years, for what is essentially a heavy coat of paint. Why not increase the complexity of the gameplay if you're doing a remake, not a remaster? Beyond movesets, I also feel as though the animations themselves lack the weight and energy of the original. It does now have omnidirectional rolling while locked on, at least. The unique melancholy element of the world of Demon's Souls was also conveyed by the soundtrack. The boss themes were strange, off-putting, menacing, and surprisingly subtle. It was another element that made Demon's Souls stand out. Yes, it primarily consisted of virtual instruments. I don't think anyone would argue that recording with actual acoustic instruments wouldn't have been an improvement, but yet again, all subtlety goes out the window with Bluepoint's remake. Everything must be as grandiose as possible, regardless of context. Compare Flamelurker's themes.
Certainly Bloodborne has informed this project to some extent in terms of the scale of the sound and the combination of choir and orchestra, although it is important to say this score has its own identity and its own sound.
The Demon's Souls score has colors of the orchestra that are predominant. Big strings, big brass, big choir, and we've also included a live pipe organ, which is really unique to this score. We went to Temple Church here in London. There's a beautiful organ there. We were just so privileged to be able to use that and include that on the score.
It can't help but inspire us. It has a sort of instant emotional connection for people, this idea of something big and ancient, but also timeless.
It's sort of based on the idea of an ancient religious music that really helps define the genre of the score. It's a pretty scary thing to think about that, there are hundreds, thousands of fans out there waiting for this game to be released. They didn't know that this music is being reworked. We have one of the best teams in the world and in the industry of video games. So I think we've come pretty far in terms of the size and the canvas and the texture of the whole score, but the soul of the music that's in the original game is still there. We hope the fans really love it.
You can see this approach in other elements as well. Obnoxious, unnecessary shader effects that accompany enemy attacks. Giant statues added to the Tower of Latria. This place looks the way it does due to demonic influence, so why are there now giant statues of humans? And of course, the aforementioned change from the Romanesque medieval castle walls, built for defense, to a flamboyant Gothic style more akin to Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3. It feels like any aspect of subtlety has been systematically eliminated. I was unsure if I wanted to make this video, if it was necessary, non-redundant, or even worth it, but I hope that I've been able to convey any constructive criticism that was left unsaid in the previous two videos. If you haven't seen them, I'd recommend checking out the art critique video if you're looking for more in-depth analysis, or the first gameplay reveal video if you're looking for more of a joke video. This is probably it for me in the Demon's Souls remake. I'd rather spend time working on covering things that I find exciting or engaging, and less time dwelling on things that I don't. I have something else in the works that I will try and get out within the next few days, and also a list of other videos that I'm planning on doing for November. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.